What's good? It's Chris from the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show, featuring Brooklyn trio Wakelee, setting the tone with their debut LP with lyrics that explore the complexities of human emotion. Joins Off the Fret. More music talk. What's good, music lovers? Joining us from Brooklyn, New York is Alex Ballmer from Wakelee. How's it going, fam?
What's up, everyone? Chris, thank you for having me again.
Oh, man, it's been such a pleasure getting you on. You know, the album is out. I mean, how good does it feel to finally release your debut album to the world?
It feels so good. I'm very excited to celebrate tomorrow night in New York. We've got a show at Mercury Lounge. I think it's going to sell out. And so it's just going to be kind of just a wild weekend. But yeah, you know, we recorded this starting in like October 2021, and it took us way too long to record it. We stopped kind of midway between the year, and yeah, it's finally out, and it's wild, and you know, I'm excited just to like keep this project moving and doing the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. And I know that when you guys released your band's press release hyping up your debut record, you guys stated, quote, "The album is our first real statement as a band." And so how does this album represent the turning point or new chapter in Wakelee?
Yeah. You know, so much of us, or sometimes we just wanted to like hold back and not put out an album. You know, the way to like garnish as much hype as possible is to, you know, just do the singles or maybe an EP here and there. But as a big music fan myself, I always thought that releasing an album is like such a statement in just itself, and like that work that goes in behind an album. So maybe it's not necessarily like the sound that's a statement, but I think just like releasing an album itself is like, all right, these are 12 songs. It's all packaged together. Here you go. And I think that is just like way more of a statement than releasing a song every 2 months. Just feels way better. I think like having like a cemented piece in your discography is way cooler than having you know, a handful of singles floating around, not really tied to a larger theme or project.
No, I totally hear you on that, my man, because it definitely feels like, you know, in the last couple of years, everybody's been kind of debating whether, you know, singles versus albums. And it sounds like you're true to heart. Like you like that old school feel that like, I want to showcase my work of art in a full length LP.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's what we did. There were times where we like pulled our foot off the gas a little bit recording, just, you know, we're all work jobs and whatnot and have other responsibilities and priorities. But yeah, when it came down to it, you know, we had a bunch of these demos and it was like, let's just like finish this thing. Like I want to just deliver it to people. So here we are. It's out.
No, I think that's so badass, man. And I understand that now, you know, yeah, I got a side gig, you know, as I'm trying to pursue this musical career, but that's not going to last for very much longer, because I can already tell you right now, music lovers, this debut record is such a bang. And trust me, we're going to be playing some of that music inside of this interview. But Alex, can you elaborate on how this album separates you guys from your previous work?
Yeah. All the previous recordings that we've ever done were recorded in a day. Some of the recordings were even like we did 2 songs in like 2 hours and just played them all live. Like didn't really sit down with the structures too much. Didn't really get some time to really dive into tones or other elements. And in this album, like we really, you know, sometimes maybe even too long, but we just really got to like experiment. Not that it's an experimental album by any means, but you know, you'll hear like some splashes of horns, some saxophone, all types of synths, some interesting percussion stuff. And I think that came to life only because of the way that we actually recorded this album, which was like kind of slowly over the course of a year, where we got to sit with the music for an extended period of time, really gave ourselves time in the studio too. And we're like, we never really felt a time crunch. And yeah, I think that, you know, in many cases that worked in our favor. for sure.
No, I think that is so freaking bitchin', Alex, because I know I always like asking this question to artists. It's like, how do you hope that your album will be perceived, to the listening audience? I mean, what impact do you want to give from this record?
I never thought of that. I think there's I want there to be I think there's some fun moments on there. But I think also just some I don't know, without sounding pompous, but just some a little bit more introspective stuff, and just with the general themes of the album. Yeah, I think just in general, just want it to be fun. I always think when we're playing and writing songs in a rehearsal space, our best songs are when we're just having fun in there and just loosely playing. That's when the best ideas form. And I think that kind of translates to the recordings.
No, I think that's super cool. But you know what always cracks me up too at the same time, Alex, because obviously, I've been doing my research on you guys, getting ready for this Off the Fret, More Music Talk podcast. And, there's a lot of different publications that try to label you guys in a certain genre, and I even saw that you guys state yourself as emo and indie, but is it just me, or is the idea of emo music progressed beyond the skinny jeans and black eyeliner, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. When I tell maybe family or anybody who's not a music nerd like me, I say emo and they automatically associate with the Hot Topic, eyeliner, My Chemical
Romance.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. It's the same thing if you just say indie rock. There's a whole spectrum towards indie rock, and I think that's the same thing with emo music or punk music. There's different there's a different spectrum.
But I guess my thing is, Alex, do you worry being labeled in a certain genre as you start to explore new sounds and new music? Because again, this is just your debut LP.
Yeah. No, I feel I got nothing to worry about there. Yeah, I'm just gonna write what feels genuine to me, and I think I think I heard this on an interview of an artist that I like. But I think at a molecular level, people can tell if you're being genuine or not. From within the first 7 seconds of hearing a song, they know if you aren't trying to rip somebody off, if you're just being yourself, if you're really trying to make original music. I think people could tell. So I don't know. I try to just be as genuine.
Yeah, try to keep it your sound. I think that's such a beautiful thing, because I know I interviewed a music producer, Steve Ornest, and he was talking about how his biggest pet peeve is when artists come into the studio and they say, hey man, I really want to sound like Billie Eilish. But the thing is, the time we try to master that sound, it'll be irrelevant in the next 2 or 3 years when the track goes to release. So are you feeling that same vibe as well?
What
sometimes do you ever approach your music producer and you're like, hey man, do I want to sound like a certain sound? Or are you saying more in general, I just want to be true to me, and if I stick to what I got, that will be the best format for Wakelee?
I see. Yeah, I think there's definitely times where I pull up examples of songs or artists. I'll be like, oh, I love this snare tone that this band uses. I would love the snare to sound something like this, or this vocal effect sounds really great on this band. I want it to sound closer to that. But no, if I went in there, I was I want to sound like so-and-so, who wants to be a part of that? They should just listen to that band who did it first.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's how I feel about that.
No, absolutely, Alex. And
yeah.
I know the first music video that we'll be playing on Off the Fret, More Music Talk is Mood Rings. And do you remember my advice that I gave you on the Chris College show?
Shit. What was it?
Well, I was thinking, just in case, because you guys told me that you're both in relationships, and I'm talking about your twin brother, David, who is on the drums. And, sometimes, you don't always want to get out all the time, and maybe you might want to have your brother step in for you.
I see.
Have you considered that? But then at the same time, I did notice in band photos, you guys are trying to separate each other. One's got a mustache and then one does.
No, the mustache thing is funny. It was like a trip with our friends, and for some reason, like what we did was like, oh, let's all grow mustaches. So I think I may have mentioned this the last time we talked, but it was like terrible timing for that first Mood Rings music video because that was like the 1 week where I happened to have a mustache. But no, well, I guess we do try to separate. I always thought like people who were like way too into being twins was like a weird thing. Like I know some twins who like share the same Facebook or something like that. And there's like no real identity between the two. So I
mean, think about Oasis. How did that work out for that band?
Yeah, look at them. Yeah, exactly.
So, but you know, there's a line that stuck out to me when you sing, quote, "So I bought a mood ring, the colors washed, and it left me confusing, nothing revealed at all." So like, what is the overall message that you want music lovers to grasp from this track?
Yeah, that song I think is just like just general like confusion. Like something bad happens to you, or you get some bad news, and like just trying to process it, and like not knowing if the way you're processing it is right. If that's like a natural reaction, like, you know, should I be crying or should I be happy? And I think that's kind of like the general theme of that song.
Yeah, do you feel like with the millennial generation, like we just kind of react on an impulse, and that's not a good thing? Just kind of ride the wave. You know, mood rings are constantly swinging, constantly moving, always changing in colors.
Yeah, I mean, I think like for me, and I bet this is the same way for a lot of people, like, you know, it's so easy to just like numb it out. You just like something shitty happens, instead of just like sitting there with your feelings, you bring up your phone and like scroll through Instagram and TikTok and just become like a stone for 45 minutes instead of like actually confronting it. So yeah, I think like that's more or less what that song's about.
No, absolutely. And I'm so glad you referenced this part about like the instrumental work with mood rings, because I did hear those trumpets and I thought that was so bitchin'. And I'm wondering like who in the group plays the trumpet, or was that midis?
No, definitely not MIDI. I think trumpet is like the one, or probably the first MIDI instrument that I would never play, because you always know like right away when it's a trumpet MIDI, like you're like, no.
Yeah, it's going to start to sound a bit like Garage Band.
Exactly. No, that's our good friend Dan, who he did all the trumpets. He did some of the guitar work on, like, kind of scattered all over the album. And he was like definitely instrumental in helping us craft a lot of those songs. And he nailed that trumpet part. Yeah, that's like one of my favorite parts of the song, and everybody loves that part live when the trumpets come. So.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear that live. I mean, are you gonna have a trumpet player? Are you gonna be using backing tracks or?
No, Dan is playing with us on or tomorrow. Yeah, he'll be playing the trumpet. We've got a surprise saxophone player too. One of our songs on the album has a sax part, or a couple of them do.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, we got the whole horn section. We're hoping to get someone to play violin in the set too, which would be great. So, you know, trying to cover all the sounds of the record.
Man, I mean, that's pretty bitchin'. I mean, I don't think too many artists have the opportunity to just gather more musicians to join them on stage for their debut LP. I think that is super groovy, Alex. And we're going to go ahead and set the tone here right now and Off the Fret. More music talk by playing that first music video, which is Mood Rings live on Off the Fret. What's good, listeners? That was Mood Rings. You can find that on Wakelee's debut LP. And Alex, is it true that the moment you fell in love with music was on a trip to Alaska where your older sister introduced you to Blink-182 on a Walkman? I mean, you might even have to explain what a Walkman is, even with our young core listening audience. So is that even true?
That is true. It seems like, some, I don't know, it might come off like a far-fetched, like little fairy tale memory that I have, but it's one of those, I don't know, like, when you're like between the ages of like 3 and 6, there's like a few core memories. Like I feel like I remember like 5 things from that time period. And one of them was in the backseat of a car in Alaska taking some family trip. And my sister had the Enema of the State CD and she played Aliens Exist. And I remember just being like, oh, this is awesome. And yeah, then, from there she was obsessed with Blink-182. My brother and I were for so many years. So yeah,
because it sounds like you guys always have like a different grasp of music. Like I saw in a photo with your twin brother, like he was rocking a Slipknot t-shirt, which is really funny. I even know in you guys' like tug of war music video that we'll be playing later on Off the Fret. It sounds like there's a little bit of double bass going on before the actual music video kicks in. So I wasn't too sure if that was him or another band in the background. But with all that being said, has your taste in music evolved over time, or are you kind of just staying true to the music that you love since the early days?
I'm really happy it evolved. No hate against Blink-182. I feel like they're like underratedly one of the most inspirational bands. They've so many kids have picked up guitars or started a band just because of them. But no, I feel like I listen to all sorts of stuff now. Like just a lot of indie rock. I listen to, even like harder stuff. Like I got into like Slipknot or, the Turnstile is great. Even some like,
I mean, as you're like talking like this, Alex, like majority of myself is telling me like, do you credit your older sister for kind of starting the band or like getting you to even pick up an instrument?
I think so. Yeah. I would give her that badge. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty cool. And like, do you feel like you wouldn't be discovering music on your own if it wasn't for the influence of your older sister?
That's a good question. I feel she definitely she sparked it for sure. Yeah. Like I remember like sitting at around her, like around the family computer. And she was playing, all sorts of types of music. And then I would kind of like see that, and then next time I would go on the computer, I would be looking for new songs. I remember like falling in love with this like Modest Mouse song. It's still like might be one of my favorite songs of all time. It's called Third Planet by Modest Mouse, and like I heard that when I was like 8 or 9 years old and fell in love with it. And then like in college, I like revisited that band and just like I fell in love with their entire discography. It's kind of weird, just like little moments like that just. That could just happen. But since we are talking about like discovering music and your taste in music, I don't know about you, Alex, but like, obviously with the new trends with singles versus albums, we get a lot more curated playlists from, Apple Music and Spotify. And I hate it, to be honest with you. I like to know what I'm listening to. So with that being said, like, how do you discover music? Yeah, I never use the Spotify playlist. Very rarely will I do it. Maybe I'll do like the custom mix or whatever. And one thing I realized is I think like those playlists, like those editorial playlists, they're curated so it all sounds very cohesive. So it all sounds like almost like one flowing piece of music, which is like great. People like gets more people to listen to your music, whatever. But then like it's tough to stand out when you're in one of those playlists. So for me, like, I don't know, I think it's usually just like looking at my favorite bands, who do I keep seeing on bills or on tours? Who do I keep seeing like that, I'm on like Reddit all the time. Who are people always mentioning on Reddit?
Okay, fascinating. Because
Yeah.
one of the questions that I had in mind, Alex, was it's like, how receptive are you to music reviews? Because I always kind of, yeah, I mean, it's got to be beneficial for your band, obviously, because more word of mouth, more SEOs, more search engines are going to be able to discover Wakelee and who you guys are. But like, a music review is not going to get me hooked on a band. It's whether I dig it or not. Do you feel the same way?
I definitely don't like hold music reviews as gospel, but if it's like pretty cohesive, like, oh, 3 of these major publications, obviously like Anthony Fantano is a huge player in the space. If they're all raving about it, like I'll probably be more inclined to check it out. But will I like it as much as they say that they like it? That's more up to me, but I definitely will check it out more likely if.
No, I hear you. I mean, it's cool that, you're discovering music through Reddit. I mean, that's something new. I mean, I don't typically go to Reddit, but hey, that's West Coast and that's East Coast for you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they don't use Reddit on the West Coast.
I don't really use it that much. I mean, I could be just the only weird soul in the millennial generation that's just like, yeah, that's not necessarily my go-to.
I think there's probably more weird souls on the other side. Using
so,
Reddit.
Chris, you need to start to touch grass in the East Coast and go and visit the concrete jungle of Brooklyn, New York.
Yes, exactly. No, there's definitely I am a Reddit weirdo.
Hey, no shame in the game, baby. No shame in the game.
No shame in the game.
But hey, let's switch gears a little bit because I want to talk about your relationship with your music producer, Brian DeMiglio. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but the trio, as in Wakelee, you guys spoke very highly of your music producer. And why was it such an important asset to bring him along for your debut LP?
I mean, yeah, Brian is like, he became a friend of ours, like a close friend of ours in the process. Nicest, chillest guy that, like, if I wanted anybody to be in like a creative space, it's Brian. And he like really knows his shit. Yeah, he's just like a great person. Like I just like, as much as I would look forward to go record, I would look forward to go hang out with Brian.
Well, clearly he's got to be a great person though, Alex, because when I was doing my research, you guys have known him for over 4+ years. So, you would have had some time and some wiggle room to like go, hey, I'm going to start weeding some people out of my life. We're beneficial in the early days, but clearly there was something that you grasped from. So my question is like, when did you first come to meet Brian?
He was, the first guy that we produced a couple songs with, Jesse Cannon, who's like a partner at the studio. And Brian was just the engineer there. Not just the engineer. I don't mean to demean engineers.
Yeah, right.
He was the engineer at the studio, and yeah, we kind of just remained in contact. And then they shut down that studio. They opened up a new one in Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn, and he was kind of like running point at that studio. And so we had this whole plan to record this album, and we knew Brian, we knew Jesse, so we went back to them. And it was like mostly Brian at the studio. And we told him like, yeah, we're going to be recording this album. And he was obviously welcoming, and, he had all these great ideas. He was very proactive, like always wanted to hear demos. He was just so great.
So when you were working with Brian, was there any like aspects, that were challenging in the recording process that he helped you boys get through?
Yeah.
Which one stands out?
Yeah. The hardest part is like, like one of us has an idea in your head. Like, you hear like something in a song and you're like, oh, I want it to sound like, it's very easy to be like, oh, I want it to sound like washy or like boomier. But like that could mean like 50 different things. You have to be able to, it's one thing like having the ideas, but then trying to communicate it like requires a certain level of just like understanding of, I think, production and just general recording techniques. And like Brian, I think, did a great job of taking like the smallest amount of information like if I said like, ooh, I want it to just be like sound tinny, but not like this, Brian could like kind of take that and digest it and, you know, make it work, or at least get us closer to what we were thinking. So he did a really good job of like being our translator, for sure.
Oh yeah, I think he was a great guidance in your guys' direction with this debut LP, because it's so beautiful, and there's so many hidden singles in there. And I know this one track doesn't have a visual. Might in the future, we don't know, from Wakelee. But the next track that we're going to be playing is called Outside, which you can find on their debut LP. And there was a line that stuck out with me where you say, "I'm just trying to get my mind right, like flowers blooming in the nighttime." So it was this kind of like a jab at you living in the concrete jungle of New York, where you don't necessarily see the sun and the palm trees like I do on the West Coast.
Yeah, I think like that's kind of what the song is about. I think that line is just more of like, just if things aren't feeling that great, just like trying to like grow and get better, and just like see some beauty in the darkness, man.
Beauty in the darkness, man.
yeah. So I know that's obnoxious as hell.
So are you saying like you kind of want like the music listener to kind of, tell its own story of how it's going to be perceived to them? Like it's kind of like an open book.
Yeah, I think that's like my goal with like writing lyrics, is like it's up to the listener's interpretation. Like it's just kind of theirs to have, and they could kind of, apply it to how it might apply differently to how they're thinking versus someone else. And I think like, you could almost call that like trying to pander, like, or whatever, or just trying to make it as vague as possible so it applies to a bunch of different things. But I think there is like a nice thing about that. I know there's songs that I listen to, that it could be about someone's like drug addiction, but they make it sound like losing a loved one or something like that. And I think that is
so freaking true, because my first reaction when you just said that was Puddle of Mud, Blurry. Like always when you hear that track, the lyrical content, you always think it's about like a loved one or a girlfriend. And then he goes, "Oh no, it's about my kid."
Yeah.
You're like, really? Like, I don't know why I perceived it this way.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, like, that's great. Like, who gives a shit? Like, if
right. As long as you like the music, right?
Yeah. If you like the music and like, maybe one line doesn't relate to you, but another line in the song relates to something going on in your life. Like, it doesn't have to be the entire thing. Yeah.
And hey, we might as well let the people know what's good. Are you ready to play Outside?
Let's do it.
Hey, let's get it, baby. So we're about to get it going right now. For all of you music lovers tuning in to Off the Fret, more music talk. This is Outside.
This head is overwhelmed with feeling. I wanna go outside. It got nice out. It can't be nice every time I try to overthink everything in my life.
What's good, listeners? That is Wakelee, and that is their track Outside, and you can find that on their debut LP. And Alex, since I got you on right now here with us, I want to continue to talk about your writing and production process, because I saw online that you guys, during the early stage of song development, I think it was more particularly you like to record on a voice memo app on the iPhone. I think that's kind of cool. Why is that much easier for you instead of going to like your computer and recording with professional equipment?
I think it's more so I don't lose ideas. Like I think a lot of musicians probably have a similar experience, but I'll be like in the shower and have like a little just snippet of a melody, or like I'll pick up my guitar for just like a minute if I in between doing something, and like in that minute, like, oh shit, this sounds pretty good. Like click, let me record that. And then like one of my favorite things to do, for some reason, it's always on a plane when I'm on a plane, but like I'll just like listen through all my voice memos and then just star the ones that I really like. And, hopefully try to build those out a little bit more, turn them into songs, bring them to the band kind of thing. It's just like, it's such an easy way to just quickly capture like that first original thought.
No, I think that's super cool. And I'm just curious because I love how raw your guys' album is, and it just sounds so beautiful, the mastering and etc. But like, did you guys explore possibly bringing in some of those voice memo recordings to the debut LP, or did you completely re-record it with professional equipment?
I actually think in the beginning of the last song, Texas, there's like a little humming part. And it's like me on acoustic guitar. That's actually from like the voice
memo.
That's
so cool.
That's a voice memo. And that's like when I first came up with like the little melody of that song. So it like kind of introduces the song, like a little humming of the melody, and then it plays the actual song. There's another shorter song on the album called Arcade, which like, I purposely made sound super lo-fi, but I recorded that in my room. That was like the one song where we didn't go into the studio to record it. I did it just like straight on my laptop, tweaked a few things, and that song I recorded in like, I don't know, an hour and a half.
Isn't that so freaking amazing how certain things can happen like that? And since we're talking about like the songwriting process, I mean, what comes easier to you? I mean, you are the vocalist, and I know Elliot steps into, and Elliot is the bassist in the group. Everyone that's tuning in to Off the Fret. So when you guys are coming up with lyrical content or musical arrangement, what comes first? I mean, what's easier for you?
Well, it's usually like a variety of either like a little bit of a song structure, like a chord progression, and then like a riff that either goes with or after it. And then it's either that, or it could be just like maybe it's just like a chorus idea, like a melody over a chord progression, or maybe it's just a melody. It's usually like some combination of the three. But I think like lyrics are usually what I finish last. Because
I saw, although, Alex, that you tend to like to work around the acoustic guitar before implementing the electric guitar. Why is that the case? I mean, do you like to hear it in a clean format before you start adding any echoes, reverbs, or delays?
One, it's the most convenient. It's so convenient. Just like you pick it up, play anytime you want. Two, I think if it sounds good on an acoustic guitar and just yourself, like it's going to sound great with a band. So I think like if it passes the acoustic test, it's definitely going to pass, or should pass, the band test. I think like for like the next album we record, like I want to make it more focused around like trying to be inspired by like different guitar tones. So I don't know, I've been trying to write more with an electric guitar recently.
Man, the writing doesn't stop. It doesn't even matter whether the LP is already out today. The grind is always going. I think that is so cool. But you know what's really intriguing about you guys, which I thought was so freaking badass? You got to speak on this, Alex, which is when you guys were recording your debut LP, you guys consistently switched instruments? Like you swapped roles? What is this, Freaky Friday?
Yeah, there was definitely, a lot of passing around instruments. None of us got on the drum set other than.
Oh, okay. So the drums is off the limits. What,
Yeah,
you can't keep a beat, can't keep a rhythm, you and Elliot?
Yeah, no, can't keep. We have no sense of rhythm. And he's a lefty drummer, so that like.
Hey, I'm a lefty too. I know how that is. I mean, a lot of my friends when they come over, they're like, "What am I looking at?"
Yeah, what is it? 11% of the world's a lefty, maybe less.
Yeah, probably less.
Something like that. I could have just.
Every time I go to Guitar Center, and I bet your brother feels the same way. He's like, "Dude, I'd love to play on that bitching drum set, but like, this ain't gonna work out, fam."
Yeah, he's got some on guitars too. I think he plays a little guitar, so he plays righty guitar. But we switched instruments. Like, there are some guitar lines that Elliot helped write. There were some guitars or Dan wrote a lot of the guitar parts. I think there were some bass parts that I helped write as well. We just try to keep it as collaborative as possible. I think like the more skin in the game everybody has, the more enthused they're going to be about the project.
And I know one of the other things that I was researching about you guys is the song that is your music video that you guys dropped, Tug of War. You had a really difficult time trying to come up with the vocal patterns and the lyrics to this track. And am I correct by saying that you guys turned on Shark Tank music and started doing your own pitches with the band?
That's actually no joke. I wish there was good footage of this.
Yes, that would have been so awesome.
We might have a couple videos of it, but like we were so stuck on that song. Like we loved jamming to it. We loved playing it. We had like just a few vocal ideas, but nothing really stuck. And it was like getting time to where we were like really trying to finish the album. And so we like all got in my room here and we just like put that song, like we started with the verse. We put like literally just one phrase of the verse on loop. And we set a timer for like 20 minutes where we all were just like by ourselves. We're all in this room for 20 minutes. No one said a word. And we were just like each trying to come up with a melody. And like some lyrical content around it. And so like we walked in, basically we like would play the Shark Tank music and then like one of us would walk in and like pitch the melody and the lyrics to us. I wish there was footage of that.
Dude,
that was
okay. Well, here, listen. I could do the whole dun 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 dun. So, Alex, like, since we're here, on camera, could you give us kind of an idea of your original pitch when you went to go propose it to the group?
I'm not going to sing a cappella right now. If that's what,
So that was your first step. You started singing right away. You didn't give yourself like, hey, this is going to be the clear message I want to get across. It was like, nah, man. I've already gone through the whole instrumental on loop. I'm gonna just start singing. That's how you approached it.
Yeah, there was no. I don't know. It was definitely
no PowerPoint.
No PowerPoint. No slides. No laser pointers. Nothing. It was just like straight to the point. Let's hear it. Yeah, that was interesting. I would do that again. I think that's like an interesting like way to do it.
That sounds like a very funny TikTok viral video. Our next record is going to be produced doing Shark Tank pitches.
That's a good idea.
Follow us.
we do need more content ideas, so maybe we'll do that.
I think that's pretty badass. But also at the same time, it sounds kind of demoralizing. To listen to the same instrumental on loop. I mean, so you guys did find it beneficial in the end?
Yeah, I mean I think that's like might be one of my favorite songs, or maybe is my favorite song on the album. Right now, it's my favorite song to play for sure. But yeah, I mean, demoralizing it like made you go insane. Like listening to that shit on repeat. Like that's like the interesting thing I've learned about recording this album is like by the time it comes out, by the time like the record's out now, but like. Yeah, by the time it came out, I've already listened to like all the songs probably like 1,000 times each. Just because from like, mixing, trying to send mix notes, like writing the song, listening to demos. It's like, it's just nonstop. You're listening to the same stuff over and over again. So it's like such a relief, like, it's like off my plate into the hands of other people to enjoy.
Well, you must really love your music.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't stand like listening to it over and over again,
then how the hell in the world are you going to be a successful band touring across the globe? I mean, it's going to be a tug of war if you don't.
You're quick.
Yeah. So, hey, we might as well set the tone for everybody that's tuning in right now on Off the Fret, more music talk. And the music video that we're about to play is Tug of War on Wakelee's debut LP. Let's get it. That's what's good. That is Wakelee's music video, Tug of War, and you can find that on their debut LP. And Alex, on a final note before we wrap it up, what are the plans in the coming months for the trio?
Celebrate the release. Big show tomorrow. We got a couple shows that we're booking. Yeah, we want to we've been writing a little bit. Nothing's like too concrete, but we kind of want to be in the studio again with another album, kind of ready to start. We want to start that process like in the fall.
So you guys want to be like the Beatles. You don't want to linger for like 3 or 5 years, like, or 6 or 7, like Metallica celebrating their 72 seasons record.
Yeah. No, we just want to, I think like what excites me the most is like, you know, with this album, there's so many things I accomplished as far as like what I want songs to be, but there's so much music that I still want to make. Like I listen to new music. I'm like, oh, would love to make a song like this. And just like knowing that I can try to do that is like so exciting. Yeah, I think just recording more music.
You should be very, very excited for your debut LP. And Alex, I can't thank you enough for allowing me to get an early listen on this record. And I'm so excited that it's finally out there in the world.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it for having me on for the second time. This is great.
Hey, baby, you guys are always welcome to join us anytime. And, I want to thank you guys again. And for everybody that's tuning in, like I said, make sure you check out Wakelee's debut LP wherever you listen to music. For now, we'll see you around, fam. Peace.